this moment. Recordings in progress. Okay, so we are here. It's a Friday. It's a Saturday night. We are all very, very cool. We have this as our social activity of the weekend. We are clearly thriving in our social lives, and I'm just so excited that we get to have this evening together. Real talk, I don't do anything basically ever. So to me, this actually is an exciting Saturday night. I had something on the calendar. I had a time I had to be somewhere. I had to wear the top half of me, not pajamas. Like, this is a big day. And I'm very excited that you're all joining me because this webinar is near and dear to my heart. So we're going to be talking about systems and routines that I tried out for years and years and years in my classroom, and then also some ones that I did at home, because I know that beginning of the year, we start out hopefully refreshed from summer, hopefully refreshed from, if you came to Camp Kinder, you're like inspired, you're ready to go. And then September happens and you meet your class and you're like, it's fine, everything's fine. We have all these high expectations. We're getting in the year strong. And then October comes around and you start to slow down a little bit. You can feel yourself slowing down. November happens. Again, the slowdown continues. All of a sudden, it's December, holiday craziness appears. And then it's hard to come back from. So we're going to try and set ourselves up for success by implementing really just realistic strategies and systems that are going to help us make it through the rest of the year feeling good. And I always like to do a disclaimer at the beginning that I am not employed by a school board right now. Therefore, I get to say whatever I want. And that's great for you, because I'm not going to tell you things that your board is going to tell you. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to pretend you don't have daily evacuations. I'm not going to sit here telling you about your mythical unicorn class and all the best practices that you want to be doing in an ideal world, because I know you probably don't teach in that kind of class, and I don't need to tiptoe around it because I don't work for anyone but myself. So that is my disclaimer, that I just promised to be super honest with you, and it'll be great. So I will share my screen. Oh, good, I can keep admitting. I don't really want to create a PDF, but thank you so much for offering, Adobe. Let's go into our full screen mode. And hopefully I can still see people popping up when I am in full screen. All right, so, oh, I can. Wow, Zoom is just really crushing it today for me. Today's webinar, as we know, my screen sharing is paused. Why? Why is my screen sharing paused? Resume share. Great, because I clicked that button by myself. Resume share. Stop share. This is going great. Let me try again. Here we go. Okay, we're working. Here we go. All right, so today we're doing Find Your Flow, which we already talked about, is simple systems, routines for inside your classroom and outside your classroom that are going to help you decrease your burnout and really increase the ease of teaching, finding those pockets of peace, those pockets of ease throughout your day. So if you don't know me, which I think everyone here does when I scan the list, I'm Mariah, and I'm an Ottawa girl, which is why I have the Parliament buildings here in this orange square, but I currently live in Dartmouth in Nova Scotia because my husband moved here for work. Actually, we were not married when I moved here. We're now married and he works here, but we're trying to make our way back to Ottawa as soon as possible on the account that there are multiple babies inside me. I super love pancakes. We try and have them every weekend. I'm trying to master my recipe. I love all things Disney, which is why I have this castle here. Specifically, I would say more like the early 2000s Disney Channel, like Family Channel style stuff. I also love a scrunchie, usually have my hair up unless I'm taking photos like in this photo here. And most importantly, I love working in contract hours and leaving right at the bell. So with that, I'm going to tell you my resume, but of course had to make it cute Canva style. So I do have my Kinder Specialist, which is where my heart and passion truly lies, is with early learning with those Kinders. I'm also an Ontario certified and Nova Scotia certified teacher. And over the years, I've taught everything from core French to dance to English, math to grade 5, early French immersion kindergarten, English kindergarten. I've taught the French and English of one class. I've done so many different things, and I've also moved around to schools consistently. The longest I ever stayed at one school was 2 years in a row. And other than that, I always moved around, just from being surplused or from wanting a change or from having a baby. So as mentioned, I am a mom of one. My son is 15 months, but I will soon be a mom of 3 because we are having twins in January, and my C-section is probably going to be around January 10 to 15. So if that's your birthday, let me know. We're going to be birthday twins, or you're going to be birthday twins. It's my actual twins. And I am a military wife, like mentioned. I live here because my husband works for the Air Force. I also identify as an overthinker, but a doer. So I like to think things through a lot, but then once I've decided something, I just go for it. I'm also a podcast host, a snacker, the founder of Camp Kinder, and I am the CEO of Inc., which is really exciting because we just incorporated a Playful Purpose this summer. So that is great. Someone was saying, have them on January 1st because that is my birthday. January 1st will be too early. We don't want them to come out that early. Also, I need to have some distance from Christmas so that we can just really focus on one celebration at a time. All right, so why this workshop? Here's my story time for you. So I almost went on stress leave twice. And the first time was in my first year of teaching. And then the last time was right before the pandemic happened. And I was serious. I'm not just saying I almost went on stress leave. I literally had a doctor's appointment booked with my doctor to talk about getting a doctor's note to not return to work because I was just feeling so stressed out about everything that was going on in my classroom. That being said, it would have happened significantly sooner if I hadn't been setting myself up for success all along. So I had all of my strategies in place, which is why I did last all the way until March of that year, even with everything that was going on, and why ultimately I didn't end up needing to go on stress leave in the end. So the main thing that I had to realize that I think a lot of us struggle with realizing is that teaching is your job. It's not your life. It's not your identity. And yes, it's a very important job and we're passionate about it and we're lucky to have it and it's a fun job and it's an important job. But at the end of the day, it is a job and it's not your entire identity and it's not your entire life. And that can be really hard to kind of separate out. But the faster we make that distinguishing decision, because it is a decision, the easier our life will become. So ultimately, I realized that I made some changes and I stopped feeling that extreme burnout. And the interesting thing is that in terms of the amount of effort and time and planning I was putting into my classroom, that significantly went down. And guess what happened in my classroom and for my students? Literally nothing. They didn't notice. Their learning did not have it was not negatively impacted at all. And yet everything changed for me because I was happier, less stressed, no longer crying on my way to and from work. So this is kind of a throwback to Mariah in year 1, my first year of teaching. And I want to know if this sounds familiar to you, so you can put it in the chat. Basically, I would spend my weekend laminating, but I framed this as it's fun for me. It's relaxing. I would laminate while I was watching a show. I enjoyed it. It's fun to cut things out. I liked making new centers. This is how I was framing it in my head. And all of that might be true, but there's so many other things we can be doing that are also fun that don't then take up our entire identity. But I didn't think about that. I was just laminating every weekend. I was arriving super early to school. I'm talking an hour, 2 hours before the bell, and I was staying late. I didn't have a family. I didn't have a boyfriend. I just had 2 cats at home, and I would stay. I would stay for way too long, way longer than I need to, if I was being honest. I spent a lot of time just like sitting and looking around and feeling overwhelmed and making more to-do lists. And I would put out every single Monday brand new centers, complete with little signs you can see here that I would write with, chalkboard marker. On the weekend, I would erase them and they would still have the white marks, and I would erase them multiple times and spend, I don't even know how long, until they were nice and clean again before I could write on them again. And to be honest, I spent a lot of time crying. I spent a lot of time crying in my car on the way to work because I was so overwhelmed. I spent a lot of time crying on the way home from work because I just felt like teaching was my whole life and I wasn't doing a good job and I wasn't reaching my students and I didn't want to ask for help because I was embarrassed and I was a new teacher and I felt like if I was admitting I was struggling in my classroom, I was admitting I was a bad teacher. So in addition to that, I was putting out brand new lesson plans every single day. I was never repeating everything. I was constantly trying new things. And this was unhelpful to me in terms of my planning time and unhelpful to my students because they never knew what to expect. I was always reinforcing new things and new routines and really just unsustainable for them as independent learners. So basically today's webinar is how to not do that. We don't want to be year one Mariah. So there's 3 parts of this webinar for you today. The first part is we're starting at home. Systems and routines you can start implementing at home because I'm honoring the fact that a lot of us work in teams here, especially if you're in Ontario and you're working in a team, and it's a lot easier to start where you're the only one who needs to change. So if we can start doing things at home that are going to help school feel more manageable, amazing. Part 2 is going to be systems and routines in the classroom. And this is one that you'll need to get your team a little bit more on board for. And it just could take a little bit more of a shift mentally for you to really embrace. And then part 3, of course, is Kinderplant is opening tonight. So it's party time. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it at the end and all the fabulous bonuses that you'll get when you're doing Kinderplant. So let's dive right on in. Let me admit these last couple of friends. Okay, here we go. So part 1, systems and routines at home. It's a system. I love this show, which I'm completely forgetting what it's called right now. It's that organization show on Netflix. If you know what it is, put it in the chat. It's so calming / makes me want to rip apart my entire house at the same time. I love watching it, but my husband has had to put limits on me because if I binge it too much, then I will go on a full rampage and organize every single thing. The home edit. Okay, thank you so much. People are like ready to chime in with the home edit. Great show. So we're going to be talking about all sorts of systems, which is kind of their thing on the show. The 3 systems we're going to be talking about for at home are batching, one that I call don't put it down, put it away, and then daily 10, weekly 70. And I have some tools to help you with this that I'm going to email you tomorrow morning. So the first thing is batching, and really nothing I'm going to tell you about is like super groundbreaking. You need to take notes and change your entire life. I just find that when we're in the thick of it, sometimes it's helpful to have someone be like, hey, remember this thing that you probably already know about but are not doing? Do it. It will help. So that's what we're here to do today. So if you're not familiar with batching, batching is basically doing similar tasks at once and spending what feels like more time on them, but it's actually way less. So for example, I'm obviously having twins. I've talked about it a million times so far. I needed to batch out my podcast episodes so that I could still be putting out podcast episodes for you, even when I have more children than I can likely handle. But I felt like I can't just sit down and record podcasts for multiple hours. That's such a waste of time. But in reality, when I just sat down and recorded 4 episodes in a row, 20 minutes each, it was 1 hour. That was actually shorter than if I had decided to spread that out over 4 days because of the startup, settle in, shutdown factor. So this is the why behind why batching is so important. That's because by the time I would set up my mic and I would, settle in, open up my notes, open up the recording software, start talking, get into it, feel like I was doing a good job, hit the record, all this, all of that time, the saving after, the uploading to the site after, all of these little tasks that don't take a lot of time on their own, when you're repeating them every single time, it really does add up. So when we're able to reduce those to, I'm only opening up my email 1 time instead of 6 times throughout the day, then those 30 seconds you're saving can really add up. Less maybe in the physical actual time, but more in like the mental strain it's taking you to do that. And we're all about saving ourselves from mental strain. So when we're thinking about batching at home and batching at school, we want to think about things that batch together naturally. So in that resource I'm sending you tomorrow morning, you'll see this page here that's on the side, which is just a batching brainstorm for you. So there's sections for it that you can just brain dump, which means literally write down every single thing that comes to your head. You can always erase them. You can always print out a new page and do it again. Just get it all out of your chest, off your brain. So for example, things that batch naturally would be things like prepping your lunch for the entire week. I'm not one of these people that needs to be eating a different thing every day. I'm fine if I have basically the same lunch every single day, at least a week, realistically for longer than that. So if on Sunday we take an hour, and we batch all of our lunches, we batch all of our kids' lunches, hopefully you have enough containers for that, then you're not doing it every night and you're saving yourself the prep of getting the vegetables out, cutting up the vegetables, cleaning all the materials, putting them in containers, putting them away. You're doing that one time. It takes only a few extra seconds to pack 5 instead of 1. The hard part, the time-consuming part, is all of the prep that goes into setting up for that task. This also goes for cleaning, which is a little bit less intuitive. But instead of feeling really frustrated by one room in your house being messy and being like, I need to clean my entire bathroom today, I need to clean my entire living room today, if we start batching tasks, it becomes a lot more manageable. So this is especially helpful for those things that we don't do that often, but you wish they were magically being done for you. Washing windows, for example, doing your floorboards. Like, who's doing floorboards? Not me. By floorboards, I mean baseboards. Like, it was a weird example because I don't know anyone who's like out here dusting them. But if you want to go around your house and quickly wipe down every single surface, this might take you 15 minutes, but you have the cleaning supplies out, you have the rag out, you quickly go around, you do it. That's one thing off the list. Maybe the next day you're going to go around and you're going to Swiffer all of the rooms. Maybe that's going to take you 20 minutes. But again, you're not taking the Swiffer out, cleaning it up, dodging your children, dodging your pets, like, doing other things and then putting it away. We're doing it all at one time. We're cutting down that startup shutdown factor. Errands batch wonderfully as well. Laundry batches wonderfully as well. Don't just do your sheets, do everyone's sheets, even if they're not that dirty. Like, just get on the same schedule so that you're decreasing your work. It's better to wash slightly less dirty sheets than it is to have to wash them 3 days into the future when you just did a load. Next one is DPID-PIA. There will be a quiz at the end. Please remember this acronym. Just kidding. This stands for don't put it down, put it away. Truly, that was just too long to write as a title. So don't put it down, put it away is based on this random video I saw probably 2 years ago. And there was a super quick throwaway video. I don't even know where I saw it. But the premise was, you walk into the house and instead of just taking your shoes off, dumping your keys and dumping your purse, you're just going to take the extra 5 seconds it takes to put those things actually away in their spot, because it's just a habit. And if we can get our habit to put things away instead of putting them down, it makes a really big impact overall in our home. And while I know this might be more intuitive for us over certain other members of our household, I do catch myself just putting things down and being like, yeah, I'm going to deal with that later. Put this cutting board down over here. Yeah, I'll clean it later. Put the baby's diaper bag down. Okay, yeah, I'll deal with that later. And then later becomes something annoying that I have to do instead of it just taking that extra 10 seconds in the moment. So basically, this is a mantra we're going to start telling ourselves so that we can keep a baseline level of tidiness at our home and a baseline level of organization, which is going to help that feeling of completion overall. And really, it's just because that 5 extra seconds in that moment, which we don't want to do just because, again, habit, feeling laziness, feeling tired, just wanting to sit down, that extra 5 seconds, truly 5-10 seconds in the moment saves you who knows how long in the future, but also saves you that mental load of knowing there is a mess somewhere, knowing there's clutter, knowing there's things that need to be put away. So for example, we get home from school, we put our lunch bag down, and then we go do whatever 6 million things we need to be doing. Maybe you are just sitting down on the couch. Maybe you have to go to swimming lessons. Maybe you have to make dinner, who knows? Instead of doing that, if we just put it away, we put our lunch containers into the dishwasher right away, we put our lunchbox where it goes for the next day right away, we're extending that task by a few seconds, but the task is now done. It's off of our mental to-do list. It's off of the counters visually, and it just makes a big difference compared to putting it down, forgetting about it, and then walking into the kitchen later and being like, and I have to do my lunch. And it just becomes so annoying when really it's not that annoying a task. The other thing, I'm horrible at this, would be putting your downloaded file into the correct folder right away so you don't have to then look for it again. I cannot express enough how bad I am at this. My downloads folder is a hot mess. And then I always need to find things and I can't find it and I need to go download it again. Then I have 6 copies of the same download when I really should have just had one if I'd put it in the correct spot right away. But I'm being lazy in that moment of not organizing it. But it's an extreme discredit to myself later when I then have to go log on to whatever site I was on and download it again, compared to if I'd just taken that 5 seconds to actually sort it somewhere. And finally, yes, Sarah Bird, guilty as charged. I have so many copies of your subscriptions in my drive. It's really bad. Okay, also, I'll give you a little like inside scoop right now. Start Camp Kinder next summer, there is a presenter who is doing a presentation on how to organize your digital files and systems and routines to literally organize your digital life. And selfishly, I was like, you need to be a presenter. I need to watch this session and I need to fix my Google Drive. It is not even funny. I currently have 3 Google Drives from various stages of my business, and I literally cannot stop paying for them because I don't even know what's on there, but I know I can't get rid of it. So that will be one of the sessions that will hopefully help all of us, because I know I'm not alone here. My online presence is a hot mess. Another one would be just putting your appointments in your phone right away, putting your meetings in your phone right away, because you think you're not going to forget them, but you are going to forget them. And then you have to either call the place and find the appointment, search through your email, look for the address. Just try and keep everything as easy as possible. Try and keep things where they are. So now, I obviously go to the doctor 6 million times. So now when I go to the doctor, they give me that little card at the end saying my next appointment. I don't even leave the doctor's office. I don't even leave the reception area until I have put that into my calendar with the doctor's name, with the location and the floor and any other special instructions, because I will lie straight to my own face and tell myself I will not forget. And without a doubt, I will forget. So just little things like this, getting into the habit of just taking that extra 10 seconds to complete the task, to actually see the task through, is going to set yourself up for so much help in the future. Okay, 10 equals 70, math. We are all teachers. This is just math, the end. Just kidding, obviously this is fake math. So what this means is that we are just thinking of small shifts in thinking that are going to make a big impact cumulatively. And this is because bite-sized pieces really help reduce our overall overwhelm and protect our capacity. And one thing I'm really big on is protecting energetic and emotional capacity. We have a very limited amount. And when we are stretching ourselves too thin, our patience is the first thing to go. And I don't know about you, you can tell me in the chat. Personally, I feel really hard on myself when I am not showing patience. And this happens at school with my students. It happens at home with my husband and my son. If I have not taken care of myself, if I'm hungry, if I'm tired, if I'm feeling overwhelmed because of clutter or because of tasks that are on my list, and my patience is the first thing to go, then I really feel like I set myself up for failure. And I feel that very deeply, that I'm letting other people down. And like, I didn't need to be that snappy, but that's what ended up happening because of the position I put myself in. So one thing we're going to do is schedule smarter. So that just means that we're going to kind of look at our energy levels and just be honest with ourselves. I know on Tuesdays, we go to swimming lessons and I take Andrew by myself. It's like probably not a big deal for a lot of people. For me, I don't even know how pregnant I am anymore. I don't even keep track of this pregnancy. Let's say 6 months. That sounds about right. 6 months pregnant with twins, bringing my 15-month-old to swimming by itself. This is a marathon for me. So we get in the car, we get there, we come home, we do lunch, it's nap. I know for a fact I cannot put any important business tasks on for that nap time. I only work in nap times, but I know there's just no point. So I need to consciously schedule tasks that I know I can actually handle on that day. And this will be the same for you at school. You're not going to be out here planning for a really intense science experiment on a Friday afternoon right before the bell when you know you're done, you know your kids are done. And it's the exact same thing at your home. Don't put the biggest tasks on your most tired days because you're just not going to do them. They're going to be the first thing cut off the list. So what I mean by that is, let's say we want to start doing a schedule like this, like I'm going to give you. There's blank ones as well, so you can make your own. This is just kind of like an example. So let's say on Mondays, our goal is going to be to wash all the windows in our house. Okay, this is like a pretty easy, non-stressful task that we can be doing on a Monday, right? Mondays, we've come off a weekend, can be pretty tiring. Okay, so we're going to take that into consideration. We're going to put different tasks on that day. We're not going to put likely any cleaning on a Friday night because we're not going to do it. So we're not even going to put ourselves in this illusion dream world that we're going to be cleaning on a Friday night or meal prepping on a Friday night. Maybe you get like a weekend energy burst and that does work for you. Personally, I'm just not even going to pretend that I'm going to be productive on a Friday night after school. So we're just remembering that. And when we're scheduling things into our batching plans, into our don't put it down, put it up plans, all these things into our lesson plans, we're just going to be super honest, and no one's judging you for your honesty here. You're just helping yourself make a more sustainable plan and a more sustainable routine for yourself. So that is a freebie I'm giving you. There's a home one and a class one. This is going to be in the email I'm giving you tomorrow morning. And again, there's blank ones, but I just put in a few different examples of things you could do that likely will match up with your energy and maybe not, and maybe you'll swap them out. Okay, we're here in part 2. We're right on time. A+ to me, A+ to you. Keep the chat going. I love reading it. So part 2 is systems and routines in the classroom. And of course, everything that I talked about in part 1, we can implement into our classroom. We can implement the don't put it down, put it away into the classroom. Like, how helpful would that actually be if you were given something in your mailbox and you actually put it where it needed to go? You didn't just leave it in a pile on your desk, or you took student work and you didn't just put it somewhere else and say, I will document that later. You took a picture of it, you sent it home, or you filed it, whatever your system is. Instead of just having random loose parts that get given to you throughout the day because they were in someone's pocket and then they suddenly remembered they weren't supposed to steal, so they give you the 6 gems that have been in their pocket all day. Instead of just putting them in your pocket and then finding them next winter, you're going to put them back in the loose parts thing right away. All these little things will really add up to those feelings of overwhelm. Batching, of course, naturally lines itself up to how we are as teachers and educators in the classroom. But there are some specific other things we can do, which is what we're going to talk about next. So this is part 2, which is systems and routines in the classroom. So the things we're going to talk about today is setting boundaries, using daily routines, and then the planning and prepping part. And this is one of my other favorite shows, Schitt's Creek. Canadian treasures are in it. And when one of us shines, all of us shine. And that is the goal of this webinar. When all of us when you in your classroom have your life together, everyone will benefit. So it's not selfish to be planning a routine that works for you when you are the leader of your classroom. You are the one who is setting the tone for this classroom. I just checked the chat. The gem example is bang on. Like, what can I say, guys? I know kindergarten. So part 2, setting boundaries, the most uncomfortable thing for us to do. So setting boundaries to me means we are determining our energy level, we're determining that capacity we talked about before, and then we're working within that. But the trick is we have to work within it unapologetically. And this is where that discomfort comes from, because you need to get comfortable with prioritizing your own boundaries, with prioritizing what you can truly handle. I think that there's kind of this martyr syndrome that has been coming along with teaching lately, where it's almost glamorized to be complaining about working all the time and complaining about oh, teachers get paid this much, but we're out here working all weekend and blah, blah, blah. It's almost like cool to complain, which I think is a big thing in Canadian society in general, I would say, where a lot of people will bond by complaining. And it's fun to complain sometimes. Like, I'm a complainer, I get it. But the thing is, it's almost become something that we just think we need to do. We need to be out here working all these hours because that's what teachers do. That's what educators do. We spend all our own money and we spend all our own time in our classrooms. But we don't actually need to. And that's the main takeaway here. You are the one who decides what your limits are, what your capacity is, your financial capacity, your emotional capacity, your time capacity, everything. You are the one who gets to decide that. And we don't need to be out here making a mountain of a molehill just for the sake of it, or because we think that's the way that it is. It's not the way that it needs to be. It's not the way that it needs to be for you, especially. And this is truly essential for preventing burnout, but also for preventing resentment. Because if we're feeling like we must work all weekend, we must spend all our money at the dollar store because twice a week you go to pick up and you lose pregnant, magically $30 every time you go. This all adds up and it can start to cause resentment. It can start resentment when you look at your credit card bill. It can start resentment when you're driving to work and you're feeling so exhausted, or when you're leaving and it's 5:30 again, or when you're laminating on a Sunday and at first it was fun, but now you're kind of over it. So these things can really cause a lot of resentment and burnout if we're not careful. So this part of the planner is going to be your more uncomfortable part of the planner. You're going to want to just sit down and not show anyone this page ever, because you're going to write down whatever you want to write down. It's completely honest and it's a safe place because you're the only one looking at it. But I would encourage you to actually write it down, because you might be surprised by what you're even withholding from yourself until you give yourself that space and permission to truly go for it. So really what we're doing here is we are working on setting a reasonable, realistic plan. And there's 3 steps we need to do to take that. The first one is you're going to write down what you're currently doing. This is an honest, accurate representation of what is currently going on in your life. Then you're going to write down your dream. And the dream is lofty. It's potentially never going to happen. And it's okay if in your head you know it's never going to happen, but it's important to have like a shoot for the stars moment. And then we're going to make an actual realistic plan about how we're going to move from what we're doing currently to how we're going to get to as close to that dreamland as possible. So let's look at one of my favorite examples, which is your dream. The boundary you want to set is that you leave school 30 minutes after the bell. Like, truthfully, I left as soon as the buses were gone. I think my union rule was 15 minutes. I would stay 15 minutes and then I was out of there. So maybe that's your goal. But let's use 30 for the sake of this conversation. So your goal in the dream category here is leaving 30 minutes after school every single day. No exceptions other than whatever, when you have to stay for parent-teacher interviews, etc. Maybe your goal is not answering emails at home ever. Maybe your goal is not spending any money on supplies, which you might be thinking, whoa, not possible. It is possible. I did an entire second half of the year, January to June, didn't spend a single cent on my classroom because I was feeling like I didn't have any money. I was single income and I was feeling like I was spending way too much money. And I just said, okay, no more. That's my boundary. I'm not spending any more money on the classroom. We're making do with what we had. And spoiler alert, everything was fine. So in our dream category, let's go back to that 30 minutes after school example. In our being super honest currently section, we're going to write down what you're doing right now. Maybe you're staying 75 minutes after school. Maybe you're staying 2 hours after school. Maybe you're staying till 5:30, 6 p.m. Whatever it is, you write down what you are currently doing, and you're going to write down what you're doing within that. So if you are staying at school till 5:30, what are you doing? What are the tasks that you're doing that are keeping you there that long? Are you organizing files? Are you sitting around? Are you adding fluff to your centers, like those signs? Are you getting caught up talking to colleagues? Are you sitting there silently stewing, not sure what to do? Are you cleaning? What are you doing? No judgment about what you're doing here. Just what are you doing? Just know what's taking you so long. You need to figure out what it is that's sucking up all your time after school before you can figure out how to stop doing that, obviously. And then you're going to compare the two and set a realistic plan. So for me, for example, let's look at my before school routine, because this is a good example. I would get to school an hour and a half early, let's say. This is even when I was leaving 15 minutes after. I would get to school an hour and a half early. And then one day I was like, what am I doing? The one day was because I got a puppy, and I didn't want to leave the puppy at home all day as long as possible. So I was trying to figure out what I was doing in the mornings that was taking me so much time at school. And I realized it was a whole lot of nothing. I would roll in with my coffee. I'd sit down, I'd take my stuff off. I would like take a selfie picture for Instagram. I would drink my coffee, spark up the email, read through the millions of coworker threads that we got going on. I would, put my tabletop centers out for the day. I would go across the hall, talk to my neighbor partner. I was doing a lot of things that did not need to be happening, but I didn't even realize it was just part of my routine. I just got to school an hour and a half early. So when I sat down and thought about that, I was like, okay, well, what can I cut out? Answer most things. I still need to set up my tables. I should probably check my email. And I probably want to say hey to my teaching partner across the hall so that I know what's going on. And I was able to get to school 45 minutes early, and my day was not impacted other than I got to snuggle my puppy for an extra 45 minutes in the morning. So when we're able to sit down and just, no judgment, think about what we're actually doing here, think about what things are important, what things are actually going to have a negative impact if you don't do them, then we can start to figure out what we can cut out. There's very little things that you have to do after school that are actually going to make an extremely negative impact if you don't do them. If you want, you can email me what you do after school, and I will help you cut that list right on down. So the next thing we're going to talk about is planning and prepping. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to set up systems and cycles that make planning and prepping significantly easier on yourself. And this is really because the less we do, the better. The less we do, the better for us and for them. And the vibe of this whole section is don't do something someone else can do, even if you think you can do it better. I'm just going to say that one more time. Don't do something someone else can do and is willing to do just because you think you can do it better, or you want that control. You want to be the one whose handwriting's on the anchor chart because your handwriting is prettier. You want to be the one who puts loose parts away because you like your specific way of doing it. You want to be the one who emails the parents because you have a better wording way. Just because you feel like, whether it's true or not, probably is true, just because you feel like you have a very particular idea of how something's going to get done does not mean that that burden falls on you. If someone else can do it, let them do it. You cannot control other people's actions. You can only control your own actions, and you can only protect your own capacity. So yeah, Sarah Bird's example is she has her grade ones cut stuff for her all the time. Love this. Goes perfectly with something we're going to talk about in a second, co-creating. So the first one we're going to talk about, Mondays are not special. Mondays are just a day of the week. And we need to move away from this facade that Mondays are a very special day of the calendar week, and we must change up our centers because it is Monday, and therefore it's a fresh start. I would argue it's actually way harder to put out new centers on a Monday, because in addition to all of our friends coming back over a weekend at home and being completely out of routine, and who knows what happened at home that dysregulated them, now they're coming in, we're settling them back into the expectations of school, the expectations of our room, the expectations of our routine, and we're saying, surprise, brand new centers, brand new expectations, and we need to explain everything to them. So we are making our life significantly harder because we have literally added an unnecessary task. If we have the exact same things out on this Friday, we can knock the whole explanation of safety, explanation of how to use these materials, explanation of where things go away. All of that is just immediately removed from our mental list, our mental load for the day. We don't need to do it anymore. They already know they were doing it on Friday. It removes one element for them that they have to transition back into. They know what's going to be there. They know what to expect. They might have been thinking about something all weekend long that they wanted to add on to whatever center you were doing. You're giving them the chance to come and do it. We're also going to make planning a group activity. We don't need to be out here using our solo time after work, or even using our prep times to be doing all of our planning. And the benefit of planning with our littles is that we're going to increase their engagement while we're decreasing our work. Your Friday whole group lesson could literally be, what centers do we want out next week? And they're going to be the ones who are helping you brainstorm some things. And then on Monday during playtime, you're going to pull them and they're going to help you put the new centers out. You're going to swap them during playtime on Monday when they're already there. Everybody's settled in. They're helping you. They're taking those tasks off your list. Might they be the most beautiful, well thought out, aesthetically pleasing centers in the world? Likely not. 3-year-olds are making them, but you didn't have to do it. And there's so much value that we need to place on, I didn't have to do it. It might not be perfect, but I didn't have to do it. That's so powerful in terms of reducing our workload, reducing our burnout, reducing our resentment. We have so much that only we can do. The less you can force yourself to do the things you don't have to do, the better. Circle time is another one. We don't need to be out here planning super elaborate, detailed, brand new circles every single week. Small groups are the same. I would often just do things on the fly. I don't work for a school board. I can say this. I often didn't lesson plan my small groups. I would roll up, I would sit in front of them and I'd be like, bonjour les amis, comment ça va? And we would talk. And we would figure out something to talk about. And I could just on the fly do a math talk. On the fly, talk about observations outside. On the fly, do a mindfulness circle. Read the room, figure out what we wanted to do. Of course, if you're being evaluated, that's different. You need to have something written down. And if you're not a good on the fly thinker, of course, we need some guidance. We don't want to be out here sitting in front of a group of 30 kids in silence. That's when things get a little bit off the map here. I would often have a plan and then not use it. And I would just say, great, now I have the plan for tomorrow. And then maybe not use it again. Great. My lessons are planned for the next day. Maybe not use it again because we're talking about something else. Great. This lesson is always there. It's dependable. I have something. If we don't have something else to talk about, I do want to do something. But I didn't stick to it so aggressively that it stressed me out. And the other thing we're thinking about is just who's it for and what's the point? And these are questions I'm going to encourage you to ask yourself all day long. Who's it for? What's the point? What are you doing that's for show? What's for vanity? And what's for the kids? So what I mean by what's for show is, okay, let's say you're outside for outdoor education, okay? The kids are playing. They're working their gross motor skills. They're communicating. They're building in the sand. They're out here collecting leaves in a treasure. Nobody's fighting. It's a great day. And you are drinking your Tim Hortons coffee. And all of a sudden, you see out of the corner of your eye, your admin walking by, and you leap into action. You're like, heaven forbid they see me drinking my coffee and standing here doing quote unquote nothing. And all of a sudden you're so engaged talking to the kids and you're writing notes down and you're setting up an activity and you're literally inventing all of this work that you were not doing before because you feel like you're being observed, you feel like you're being judged. This is for show. This is for vanity. This is because you feel like you need to be doing something at all times because someone's watching you and you don't. There is nothing wrong with letting the kids play. This is the best way that they learn. You are not doing nothing. You are observing. You're making connections. You're thinking about what you're going to do next. You are taking a well-deserved breather that is going to help sustain your energy and capacity for the rest of the day. And it got to the point where I refused to change what I was naturally doing when my admin came. I also don't really think there's a benefit in pretending to be something that we're not. You want your admin to have a really accurate idea of who you are and understand who you are as an educator and what's going on in your classroom. And I don't think that you drinking your coffee while walking around and generally chatting during outdoor education is something that you need to be ashamed of or embarrassed about or feel guilty about. So when we can just think for a minute, okay, what am I doing that's for show? What am I doing for vanity? And what's truly for the kids? That can be really liberating in terms of figuring out what tasks we can ditch and which ones we should keep doing. So rinse and repeat is another thing we're going to learn to embrace. And these are going to be tabletop centers and activities that we're only switching up one or two things, but we're reusing the same thing every single week. So we can spice it up by adding a new theme or adding a manipulative, but the core, the root of the planning is done because we do the same thing every week. The kids know what to expect. We know what we need to prep. If we're away, it's super easy to write our plans. Our team knows what to put out. Your prep teacher knows what to put out. It's consistent. So for example, one of your tables might always be writing journals, and everyone has their own journal, and there's different kinds of pens or pencils or whatever put out on the table to spice things up, and maybe different kinds of vocabulary words that you're going to put out. And every so often, you're going to swap out those vocabulary words that are on the table to give it some new flair, put out some gel pens, whatever. Maybe one of your tables is coloring pages, and you're just going to replace the coloring page themes, spark some new interest. Maybe one of them is your sensory bin is going to have vocabulary words in it. Again, every week you can have a sensory bin with vocabulary words in it. Maybe every once in a while you'll change the filler, you'll change the little loose parts that are in it, you'll change the vocabulary words. The point is, it is consistent part of your planning that you know is coming up. You can easily switch out or leave. The kids know what to do when they're there, and it's less work for you week after week. Same with your math centers. Maybe you're going to have the same kind of math mats out, but you're going to switch up the loose parts. You're going to switch up the 10 frames, whatever it is. You don't have to put out a completely brand new start to finish center every single week. Often, we switch one thing, maybe two things from it, and it feels completely fresh. Better yet, ask your students what they could switch it out for. Get their input to what loose parts could go out. Again, might not pick the same things as you, might not pick the best things, but you didn't have to do it. They did it for you. And we are leaning into this liberty of, it might not be done the most perfect way possible, but hey, I didn't have to do it. And this is kind of going off what Sarah was saying earlier in terms of everything. The more we involve our students, the better. So she was saying with cutting things out, for example, her grade ones do a lot of cutting. Our grade one cutting's going to be as beautiful as if we did them? No. I mean, maybe, but likely no. But you didn't have to do it. So that is a win. Same thing with putting out your centers. Are they going to be spaced out most beautifully and perfectly around the table? No, but you didn't have to do it. So that's great. Are your book picks going to be necessarily the most seasonally appropriate? No, but you know what? You didn't have to do it. So in addition to this, you didn't have to do it, which is a huge win. You're also increasing their stake. You're increasing their interest. You're increasing this feeling of importance that we're instilling with them because they have been given an opportunity to be a leader in their own education, and then it's being followed through. They're seeing themselves potentially for the first time, especially when our littles are so young, being allowed to make a choice, being allowed to see their idea come to fruition. And you're going to plan and prep during your playtime because you're including them with it. And this is another time that you don't need to feel guilty about swapping things out during playtime. You don't need to be out here playing with the kids the whole time. Personally, I don't find that very fun. You don't need to be out here doing small groups for every single one of your playtimes. I like to only do small groups, maybe 1 or 2 play blocks a week. You don't need to be out here hustling around, looking busy during play for the sake of looking busy. Of course, there are times when that will be the case, especially if you have behaviors that do need you to be kind of tailing around and keeping really tight tabs on things. But I'm just saying we're not making work for ourselves where work doesn't need to exist. And if you can run a small group that is planning for the next week, you are getting a double whammy here because you're bonding with them, you're honoring their education, you're seeing where their interest is, and you don't have to now do that prep or that planning outside of work hours. So let's look at an example of your sensory bin. Let's say your sensory bin's been out for 11 school days and you're kind of noticing no one's that into it anymore. You had foam letters in there with some soapy water and it was like a banging center at first, but we've kind of lost interest. And now you have this big sensory bin taking up a lot of real estate in your room and we're not really visiting it. Okay, time to switch things up. So you're gonna do this during playtime. You're going to ask out loud, does anyone want to help Madame for a few minutes? Everyone always wants to help Madame for a few minutes. So you've got guaranteed at least 3 helpers coming over to help you. Okay, they're going to take every single foam letter out. They're going to put them out on a towel on the counter. Great. One friend is going to start washing out the bowls and the spoons that were used. Amazing. You're going to be the one who lifts the water out and dumps it, or maybe they're going to take little containers and start scooping it out. Like, great, this is great fine motor practice on its own. They're going to be the one who wipes out the bin, and then you have this beautiful empty bin together, and you're going to say, well, friends, what do we do now? And they are going to be the ones who decide what goes in it. And they might not have any ideas at first, but you can bring them to your supply cupboard. You can say, I don't know, what about these things? You might have to guide them a bit, especially at the beginning, where they might want to put things that would not nicely go together. And by that, I mean like sand and water, like things that are going to get ruined if they get put together. You might be giving them some guidance, but this is going to help your play block go faster for you. It's going to help those friends feel like they've gotten that connection time with you. You're putting out a brand new center that they are now excited about because they helped plan it, and they're going to go tell their friends, I think the sensory bin. You can isolate behaviors, and you can have special friends come and help you set up these things, take them away from the group, give them that one-on-one connection time, and keep tabs on them in your own way. So truly full wins going on here. This is not to say that I never planned out my own sensory bins. Of course I did. Sometimes I would go on Instagram and I would see something that I really liked, or I'd be browsing Dollarama and I had to have this loose part and I wanted to make a sensory bin based on it. That's fine too. I'm not saying you can never do the planning and you can never do the things that bring you joy. I'm just saying you don't have to. And there's a lot of value in not doing that. So you don't need to feel guilty about it either. All right, daily routine. Let me check the chat real quick. Natalie says, thank you for saying that I'm not the best at playing with them. Yeah, I don't find it like most fulfilling or engaging or intellectually stimulating to play with them. I also find it often turns into a watch the teacher play kind of situation instead of them actually engaging with play. So I would say it's pretty rare that I would go ahead and sit down with kids and play with them. There's so many other things that we can be doing, so much other value and so many other ways we can connect with them and learn with them that it's not necessary to be totally doing that. So Erin says she started sitting with them at a table with the Chromebook, doing planning or packing their notebooks or art while they're playing. Totally. You can, I'm not saying you're going to be isolated from them doing tasks. You're still with them. You're still very much engaged with them and near them. And I would do that exact same thing too. We can be near them and still getting through all of the things that we need to do. So your daily routine is kind of this last piece of the puzzle that we're going to talk about today. That is going to really help with your burnout and increase those feelings of ease. So basically we want to be thinking about a general flow of the day, that schedule that is going to reduce transitions for predominantly your littles. And we want it to stay the same as much as we can throughout the week, because when we can keep the same kind of flow of the day, again, we are reducing the need for ourselves to come in and explain what we're doing that day, because they know what we're doing that day. And every single thing that we can take off our list of things we have to do and things we have to say, every single thing you can erase from what you need to tell your kids, the information you need to relay to them every single day, the better. The more capacity you're going to have to say other things that are important. So by having the same sort of general flow every single day, we are increasing that ease for ourselves, for them. We're increasing that familiarity. We know what to do. We know what the routines are. It's staying consistent. We're getting a sense of comfort, which is very helpful for a lot of our friends with anxiety who want to know what they're doing and they want to know what to expect. It's already a lot for them to come to school. And we're reducing those unknowns. We're reducing the questions of, what are we doing today? What's next? Do we have gym? When's recess? We're reducing all of these questions that can, if we're being a little honest here, grate on us. So if you haven't gotten this guide yet, I sent it a while ago. Let me know and I'll send it to you. But this was a guide that I put out to help you make your actual schedule, which is a whole other workshop in itself. And we're not going to talk about that today, but I'll just quickly breeze through it. But I do have this free guide to help you kind of work through your schedule if you are not happy with it right now. And there's basically 3 steps you're going to take to figure out your schedule. And the first one is you're going to define your weekly anchors. These are the things you don't have control over. These are your prep times, recess times, gym times, music, specials, whatever. The things you are not able to change within your day. Those get put in right away. We have to work around them. We can get hung up on being annoyed with them, but what is the point? We're just going to accept them for what they are and move right along. Then we're going to brainstorm our needs and our wants. This can look different for everyone. What are the things you would love to have on your schedule, like a neighborhood walk every week? And what are the things you need to have on your schedule, whether it's based on your curriculum or just based on your own teaching philosophy, things that you feel like you need to have? For me personally, an hour of outdoor learning. And then we're going to fill in those blanks with as much of those blocks that we've just decided as we can. And what I want you to remember when you're making your schedule is if your schedule feels hard and it's hard to remember, it's too complicated. We want it to be simple. We want it to have as few transitions as possible. We want it to be as consistent as possible. If it's hard for you to remember, how on earth are we expecting our 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds to remember what it is? So the key takeaways you'll get from this guide are that your schedule is not about you, but it's also not about you. Because like I mentioned earlier in this webinar, you are the leader of your classroom. You are the one who sets the tone. If your schedule is not helpful to you, if your schedule stresses you out because you are constantly missing whole group instruction because the way your schedule has it, that's during your prep time. If your schedule is exhausting you by the end of the day, well, then you have drastically reduced your own capacity in your ability to be a patient, kind, on the ball, present teacher. So as much as it's not about you, because our priority is reducing the transitions and making it as easy as possible for our kids, it's also not about you, because you are a very important member of your classroom community and we need you there all year long. And if your schedule is not sustainable for that, then we have a disconnect in making that happen. Like I mentioned, we're trying to reduce transitions. We're remembering that simplicity and space in our schedule is a good thing, and that repetition is not boring. And we truly want the same flow every single day. We don't need to be out here spicing it up. There's enough fun stuff going on that will spice it up on its own. Your daily routine within that flow that we are trying to keep as easy as possible, as consistent as possible, is really going to help you with reducing behavior, which is another one of those things that is going to then drastically help our own burnout. When we are constantly dealing with behaviors every single day, this is exhausting. There's no other way to word it. So if we can at least help the 80% of our class, maybe it's less than 80 for you, if we can help the majority of our class sail through the day, we have freed ourselves up from their questions of, what are we doing today? What do I do next? Where do I put this paper? When do I go to play? When do I get to have a snack? If we can get rid of those questions, those are things we don't have to say. That's energy we don't have to give to them. And now we are significantly more available for those friends who do need a lot more one-on-one support. So for example, I did a workshop on this at Camp Kinder. I use a daily workshop model, and this is part of my consistent schedule every single day. We start the day 45 minutes to 60 minutes outside outdoor education. We come in, they come to the carpet, they're reading books independently. By the time the majority is on the group, we do a super short morning meeting. I'm talking like sing a few songs, say what's up, and then we go into our daily workshop. And it is the exact same format every single day. Outdoor learning, come in, put your lunch away, read a book on the carpet, say good morning, we do our workshop. And then the workshop themselves also have the exact same structure, but they don't have the same topic. So that's how it's still different every day, but the expectations are always the same. So we would start with a whole group lesson, 5-10 minutes. Then they go and do their independent work portion. Because we started our day outside, I already have all their independent work set up on the tables ready to go. They can flow right into that. When they're done, I take a picture of their work, I send it home so that I don't have to deal with the filing, and they move right into play. We have a timer going up. They know they need to work 10 minutes. It is the same every single day, regardless of what the topic is. For me, I like to do Monday writing because I don't have to think about it on the weekend. My writing is done for the year. Tuesday, we do math. Wednesday, we do STEM because I like a little pick-me-up. Also find science experiments are like the hardest thing to convince yourself to do because you have to collect all the materials. So it's like, nice, Wednesday, we're not too tired yet. We can get it done. Thursday, I like to do motor. fine or gross, gives myself a bit of a break. And Friday, we end on a high note. We like to do art. So again, exact same structure, whole group, independent work. And then we take a picture, we do our consolidation, we move on our way to play. So this brings me to Party Time, Kinder Plan, brand new flagship program. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it a million times because I'm super jazzed about it. It's been 6 months in the making. Do not know what this gift was supposed to be. Probably just the office people celebrating because it's a party. Let's go with that. But basically, it's monthly plans that I've made for you. I'm hoping all of you have already seen October, but as of 3 minutes ago, doors are open. You can sign up to get the rest of those rest of the months of plans. And this is, again, the whole point is because I want to make your life easier. And so that meant no logins because we don't need to be out here stressing out about logging in to download our plans every month. They're just emailed to you. So if you haven't seen October, there's like a million things going on. You'll get those weekly workshops I talked about for every single day of the month. Monday writing, Tuesday math, Wednesday STEM, Thursday fine or gross motor, Friday art. I have it all planned out for you. So if that's part of your routine, you literally don't need to do it anymore for the rest of the year. Cannot hype up enough how liberating that feeling is. So like I said, every month there is a new set of plans. When you sign up, you get every single month at once, and I'm already done September, so you'll have that for next year. So when you sign up, you'll get an email with a link to a drive that has the beautiful package of plans for September all the way through June, but I'll also email them to you on the 20th of the month, so you don't need to go and look for that Google Drive folder, because like many of us admitted at the beginning of this Safe Space webinar, our Google Drives are not ideal. So as much as we're going to try and put things right where they belong right away, I'm also just going to email you the plans you need for the next month a few days before you need them, so we can just get rid of that stress altogether. So every month we'll have a calendar of what you're doing each day, all the printables, all of the lesson plans, and a bunch of bonus ideas for you. So they're really amazing packages. A lot of the ideas you're not going to find anywhere else. None of the lesson plans are available anywhere else. And like I said, it's been taking me a really long time to get this done. And I'm just excited that you don't need to spend the time to get it done because I did it for you. I've been getting amazing feedback on them so far. I'm sure you looked at the plans already for October, and hopefully you have amazing things to say about it as well. And there are some super fun bonuses that are included within the program for you. So like I mentioned, I breezed through it super fast in this webinar. Those daily workshops I was talking about that Kinder Plan is based on, I have the workshop for you right in the program. So when you sign up, you'll get a link and you'll be able to watch. It's about 30 minutes long, but I tell you exactly how I teach each of these things the days of the week, because again, I want this to be as easy as possible for you. I don't want there to be questions. So when you watch this video, you will know, okay, this is how I'm doing my writing. This is how I'm doing my STEM. This is how I'm doing my fine gross motor. This is how I'm doing my art. It's all laid out for you, super step by step. Also made you a matching planner because, like, I don't know about you, love a fresh planner, love things to match. So all of the months will match up with your Kinder Plan plans. There's one calendar in your planner that has everything listed out. There's also a blank one in case you want to switch what things you're doing on each day, depending on your own schedule. Matching planner, be cute, not available anywhere else. And you're getting my resource bundle for evaluation. I know progress reports are coming up. So this is a pretty expensive bundle that I'm giving to you to help ease that stress even more. So this is over, I think it was like $133 in bonuses, which is actually more money than the program costs. But I don't know, I'm just like, oh, look at, I was right. $133 in bonuses, totally free. Good job, Mariah, for remembering that. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to, again, the whole point of this program is decreasing stress and like me helping you as much as I can. So this is one thing I could do. And the other fun thing is for like a special launch celebration, because this program is starting for the first time between now and Wednesday night when the price goes up. When you do the one payment, you'll also get access to another program of mine for free, which is my inquiry play packets. And that one is $93 all on its own. And it's 12 different play packets based on like themes we love in kindergarten, like dinosaurs, bugs, Arctic, jungle. And these are amazing supplemental activities you can pop out whenever you need a little bit more. There's writing, math, play, all sorts of amazing things in there. So these are your two payment options. I know everyone always wants to know what they are. So option one is monthly payments of $22. Worth noting that you cannot cancel, because like I said, I'm giving you all the plans literally tonight when you sign up. Obviously, we need to continue paying for them throughout the time. It's just a more budget friendly option. So if you're feeling 22, you can do 8 monthly payments of $22. And so the value of that is going to be much higher when I then up the price on Thursday, because I'm adding the September and the October plans in as part of the paid program. But for launch celebration, I have just like gifted those to you. But I would strongly suggest you go for the one payment. It's easier. You don't need to worry about your credit card expiring, which just happened to me, was extremely annoying. But also you just save a bunch of money. You save $53 between the two programs right now. And when the price goes up, it'll be even higher. So it's $123, which is your special launch deal. It works out to 4.5 months free of the program. Plus you get that play packets thing for free, which is amazing. So these are all going to have tax audit onto them. So if you just notice a little bit of difference in the checkout page, that's why I don't get the tax. The government gets the tax, but you know, that's how life works. So those are your two options for your payments. Again, price is going up in a few days and I can't believe it. We're only a few minutes over, but to be fair, we started a few minutes late. So I'm feeling pretty good about my time management. And yeah, I'm serious. Like, keep in touch. I know everyone always says that at the end of webinars, like, yeah, keep in touch, blah, blah, blah. But I actually do it. Like, send me an email. If you have questions, send me an email. I'm here for it. People who are here know, like, I'll write you back a long thing. I'll send you back a voice note. I'm here for it. I like to help you. It might take me a little while to get back to you because of the fact that I have multiple babies growing inside me, but I will get back to you. So that is that. Okay, let me check on the chat for a second before I have to go get my snack. Okay, so let me see what we got going on. Thank you for saying that. I don't like playing with kids. Yep, October is amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, people are asking about grade ones. People are asking if it fits for grade one. Totally. I've had, I think 6 people message me saying they're using it with their grade one class and it's been going great, but check out the October plans for yourself. You know your class best. You know your kids best. You'll be the one who gets to make that decision ultimately. Like, I wouldn't really feel comfortable blanket saying, yes, this is a perfect fit for anyone's class, kindergarten or not. That's why I gave those samplers out, because I wanted everyone to feel really good about knowing that this program was the right thing for them. Malika says, for October, it's weird to not be stressed. First time in 8 years. This is a vibe I can really get behind. Not being stressed. Love it. Yeah, so writing and math workshops are awesome. Thank you. I'm really excited about the math lesson plans. I know you're going to love them. They're super good. And you can, yes, Natalie, you can sign up right now. I'm 90% sure you can sign up right now. That everything worked on the back end, but I will have to log off and report back. So that will bring us to the end of the webinar tonight. I hope that you loved it. I hope it was fun to hang out on this bumpin' Saturday together. And I, would love to chat with you more. I'll be checking my Instagram for a bit before I go to bed. Usually I'm like pretty fired up after webinars, so I'll probably be up for a bit. Also, I think we're gonna watch the Sens game. So you can message me on there and I will get back to you, send me an email, and we'll keep the convo going. Happy to support you tonight, tomorrow, next week, next month, January 15th, when you're back from holiday break and feeling stressed out. I'm here for you. Okay, that was actually a bold-faced lie. Likely not January 15th, because as I said that, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm doing something on January 15th, literally giving birth to multiple babies. So likely will not be available to help you on specifically January 15th. Most other days available. Okay, cool. We're just saying thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for joining me. And I will see you on the flip side. See you on the gram. See you on email. And I'll chat with you in the morning.